So I did get the Apple Studio Display to test it out, and honestly the design aesthetic on this monitor is one of the best ones I have seen so far. Now, coming from an Apple MacBook, you do get that same aesthetic, same color. You get the silver option with the Mac logo in the back. Very aluminum build. It's going to be really sturdy, especially compared to other monitors out there like an LG one that I came from. But I honestly don't think it's going to be worth it for most of us. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly a target market that it plays to really well. I just don't think that most Apple users are going to be needing this monitor. And before we get to the exact target market that I think this is for, first I want to look at every single feature that this monitor comes from and why I don't think that it's going to be for every single Apple user out there. Just looking at the design of this monitor, you do get a 27-inch screen with a 5K resolution. This means that you do get that Retina display. You're going to get very clear quality on the screen itself. You also do get a glass front, which makes it even better when it comes to clearness of the monitor, clearness of the colors. Now, unfortunately, because it is a glass front, this is going to be highly reflective, and this is just for the base model. If you do want the nano texture one, it's going to cost you an extra, I believe, $600, because you know Apple, it's always going to be charging you a little bit extra to get the higher tier models. But honestly, I think for most people or that target market, I think the glass display is honestly going to be a great addition to your workspace. It kind of brings out the colors a lot in any video and in any app that you have open. Now, the glass front also has a really large bezel all around the edges. Now, this is going to be like a large iPad with those bezels. And honestly, it does also come with a camera, so it does really well at hiding the camera up at the top. But it also kind of looks outdated, especially when you put it next to a monitor where all of the other monitors kind of have a frameless design around the top. So honestly, this did make it a little outdated, but at the same time, I just can't complain about the bezels if we really can keep that glass front, because again, I really think this is a great screen for just viewing all kinds of content. I will say though that with the camera up at the front, I do think that this can be a gateway into possibly having Face ID on Mac OS. I think that's going to be a really great addition if they can somehow manage to later down the road implement that into their monitors, because it already has an iPhone chip inside, it already has a camera up at the top, and it can possibly even handle all of that processing power with the LiDAR sensor to kind of get really clear Face ID. So that way you don't have to have your MacBook open or even have the keyboard that has Touch ID, and you can just use your monitor to kind of accept all payments and sign into any app. Now, the third main design choice that they made for this monitor is going to be the stand, and that's a very controversial topic because you have to choose what kind of stand you want up at the front, whether you want it to just be tilt adjustable, which I highly recommend against, because you definitely are going to want this to be a little bit higher, or whether you want a VESA mount. Both of those options actually cost the same, so you can decide on which one. I recommend you go with the VESA mount because it does allow you to get maybe a third-party stand, whether you want it to sit on your desk or you decide to go with an arm to kind of have it as a floating monitor. Now, the other option is to go with a stand that's tilt and height adjustable, but that is going to be an extra $400 for this monitor, which I guess is better than the $1,000 Pro XDR display stand, but at the same time, it's still $400 just to get that height adjustability, which is kind of a downer. Now, you do have the option to change it if you want to. I've seen people get the tilt one and then they decide they want the VESA one instead. I believe roughly the cost is anywhere between $200 to $400. So it still kind of gives you the option to upgrade down the road if you want to upgrade it, but it is going to cost you extra. And the last design choice that they went here for this monitor that's going to make a lot of people upset is having an integrated power cable. What this means is that the cable is actually not removable, or I guess it is removable, but you have to pay like extra and you have to take it down, or you can do it yourself for an extra bit of money. But really overall, it's not really removable. It's attached to the monitor itself. This means that whenever it comes to routing cables, if you decide to route it somewhere, it is going to make it a little more difficult, especially when you're moving stuff as well. I know a lot of times when you want to move a monitor out of the way, it's really easy to just disconnect the power and then just take the screen itself. But for this, you will always have that power cable attached on the back. Now, I personally don't really have a problem with attached power cables. My OLED TV, the LG-B2, which I have a review for if you want to click the link up here, that LG-B2 also has an integrated power cable. I don't really mind. I don't have cats. I don't have pets really that chew on the cable, and I don't have kids that are just going to be ripping things out of the wall. So I don't really mind having an integrated cable, but I know it's a pain point for a lot of people out there. So this monitor does come with one integrated in as well. But getting to the main reason a lot of people are actually going for this monitor is all of the features that it comes with. And this is very feature packed, especially if you come from another monitor that's going to be a little bit cheaper. This comes with a camera, it comes with great microphones, and it comes with great speakers. So that's already 3 different accessories that you don't have to buy if you go straight for this monitor. So you can save yourself a couple $100 even, depending on what kind of speakers, microphones, and cameras you were looking at. Now I will say that unfortunately, if you do have a Windows machine, you do lose center stage from the camera, so you won't be able to get that to work. So I highly recommend that if you are looking to have center stage and you use a Windows machine, that's definitely not going to be the option here. And the camera also doesn't really give you the best quality whether you're on Windows or on Mac. But as far as I know, a lot of people don't really use this kind of like as a streaming camera. You use it mainly for conferences, video conferences, and video calls. And for that, I don't really think you need the best quality camera because you're not going to be kind of streaming 4K quality. And for those of you that do need one of the best cameras ever, I can already see you guys going for the better third-party camera instead. Now, I will say that the features are definitely one of the better ones I have ever heard on a monitor, especially because these are going to be underneath and on top of the monitor. So these speakers are going to be better than even an LG monitor, and they kind of compare very similar to my monitors I have, which did cost me about $100 and $130. But honestly, I think these are going to be great or good enough for you to listen to without needing to buy third-party speakers. And the speakers are honestly really great. I've spent the past couple of weeks using the Studio Display speakers and comparing them to my monitors. I have the Edifier MR4s, and they're pretty similar. Usually the Studio Display speakers are a little bit more bassy, a little bit more muted and muffled. That's just because these are downfiring speakers compared to the MR4s. So if you are going to be looking for really clear audio, I still recommend that you go with dedicated speakers. But for the majority of the population, the ones that come with the Studio Display are definitely good enough. And the last part of it is going to be the microphones, which honestly are really the best ones I have ever seen. And that's because I honestly have not used a monitor that comes with microphones built in. But whenever you're on a video call, you can save yourself the extra money of getting a dedicated microphone because the ones on the Studio Display are really great. They're going to work great again for those video conferences. You get the camera built in, you have the speakers, and you have the microphones built in as well. So you really shouldn't need to buy any third-party things because everything in the monitor is going to work great for any type of office environment. Now, when it comes to the price versus functionality of the monitor, you can save yourself a few $100s if you decide to not go with the Studio Display and you decide to go with third-party accessories for all of these essentials. You can get probably an Insta360 video camera, which kind of gives you that center stage feeling where it can move around and track you, follow you exactly where you are. That's around $300. You can get yourself a dedicated set of speakers. They're probably going to run you $150 just themselves. And then you could also go for a microphone, probably getting something that costs around $200 to $300 for the whole set, even though it will come with a stand as well. So let's say $300 for the microphone. That's a total of about $750. Let's call it $800. That leaves you half of the price of the Studio Display to get a decent monitor with a decent screen. The only thing is that unfortunately you won't be getting that Retina display because there really isn't many 5K 27-inch displays out there. The only other one is going to be the LG one that Apple was actually selling before they came out with the Studio Display, but that one is $1,000. Now the Studio Display at regular price is going to be $1,600, but as of time of recording this video, it's actually on sale at Amazon for 16% off, coming in at $1,350, which I think is a great price. This is priced really similar to the way the LG Ultrafine is priced whenever it's brand new. They're both around that $1,300 range. The studio display is going to come with that better screen, better colors, just because of the glass front compared to the LG that does have an anti-reflective coating on it. I will say though, to make sure that you have enough money in your budget to get yourself a desk shelf, because a tilt adjustable monitor is definitely going to be really low for any desk setup. So you at least want to get yourself a cheap one, or unless you want to go the old college route and just put a couple textbooks underneath it, that works just as well. Now, whether the price tag is worth it for this monitor is definitely subjective, but objectively speaking, this monitor is going to be the best companion to any Mac desktop computer. That's the market that it's going to be hitting at for those that don't have a laptop, because if you have a MacBook and you compare it to this display, the MacBook is definitely going to be better. But if you're someone that already has a Mac Mini and you're looking for a display, you might go with the studio display. It's going to pair perfectly. And even if you look at the price with a studio display plus a Mac Mini, it's going to come around the same price as a 16-inch MacBook Pro. So I think that's the target market, and I think it works really well for those people. But lucky for me and my wallet, I am going to be returning to the 32-inch LG monitor that I had before. I'm not part of the Mac desktop market just yet. I do have a 16-inch MacBook Pro, so I'm going to be sticking to that combo for now. Let me know down in the comments though, are you part of this market, and is this studio display something that you're going to be purchasing? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you've made it this far, and I will catch you on the next one.